So recently, I've been watching a show called Adolescence on Netflix, and it speaks about how a young boy murders a young girl, and is mainly based around how misogyny and Andrew Tate and red pill content had almost influenced and shaped this young boy to do something that was unheard of for him, or out of his character, I should say. As his parents were just shocked, they were like, "How could our young boy do this? He's at home all the time. He's barely going outside. Like, how could he be capable of such a crazy thing?" Right. And he was 14 at the time. And it had me thinking, because, sometimes I'll just go through my camera roll. I'll see myself at maybe 14, and now I'm obviously 24. And I've just been thinking about all the periods in my life, all the different chapters, and how each chapter has shaped who I am today, right? I thought, okay, maybe today 24-year-old Jude is introverted, but he likes this, and this, right? But I'm thinking, was I always introverted? Was I always like this? You watch old videos of myself and I see that, no, like I was really talkative when I was younger. I like to joke around, I like to do this, I like to do that. And it feels as though as I was going through life, I was slowly losing parts of myself that maybe were just in my nature, that if I developed properly, or if it had been developed properly, I would have been this more realized version of myself. But we'll get into that as we go through today's video, right? So, yeah, I was just thinking about that show and how, if, for example, Andrew Tate was around when I was a child, would I have maybe been influenced like this child is? Because I grew up in an era where I went to school in 2012, secondary school. That's when I started secondary school. So all my experiences, technology wasn't as prominent as it is today. Facebook was around, but it wasn't as crazy as our TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, all these different apps are. So you still had to be a bit more in person with it. Obviously, there were group chats, there was leaking stuff, there was all types of crazy things going on at that time. But all in all, it wasn't like how it is today. So it had me thinking, maybe in the next 10 years when I'm 34, I'm going to have a child, I want to start a family. Will I need to start thinking about things like adolescence, think about how my child, as they go through society, could lose their innocence, could lose what makes them them, how I could pour so much into them in the first maybe 5, 6 years of their life. They go to school and they start to lose it slowly but surely. And how we can prevent these things so they don't ever become a monster or become a victim, but become this child who grows into a adult and a man and is able to contribute and help society, right? And don't worry, guys, I promise this is all going to relate back to Bashy. You're just going to have to. Okay, so now that we've got the intro out the way, let's speak about Bashy. So I don't listen to Bashy, I'll be honest. The only song I listened to before the one I'm going to speak about today in That's How Black Boys Lose Their Smile was his Daily Duppy. Yeah, it was his Daily Duppy. So yeah, the only song I listened to before this was his Daily Duppy, where he's just going off. I was like, okay, this is good, this is good. But I've never really listened to a full project. He's a bit before my time, I'll be honest. So listening to that one song, I was like, okay, there's a video out, but I still didn't want to go listen to it because hearing the title, That's How Black Boys Lose Their Smile, and knowing that Bashy can rap at a high level, I knew something would be triggered. Something deep down within me is going to be like, oh, now we're going to have to unpack certain things. Now we're going to have to deal with certain traumas or whatever. But one of my guys, shout out Chids, who's another content creator, he was like, oh, have you heard it? It's really good. And I was like, I don't want to be taken to that place. So a couple of weeks went by and I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to it. And that's what I did. I listened to the song. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, I knew him for the show Them, where he's acting really well. And obviously he's in Top Boy as well. He acts really well, but his music, I wasn't really into it. So yeah, I listened to the song now. A wave of emotions, core memories just flooded in. Like, sometimes you speak to your friends from secondary school and they'll tell you about not tell you, you would just reminisce about certain things, and then you'll just go down memory lane and realize about how maybe this was messed up and how this happened, and you're like, oh yeah, that did happen. So I did that with myself now, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So let's start from, I'll say, the start of the story. So everyone dancing, laughing loud. There was encouragement all around. So yeah, I related heavily to this as growing up within my family. It was very much everyone was kind, everyone wanted to see the best for you. Obviously, there was tough love, all that stuff, but it very much felt like people were there for you, right? And I also had a church community as well, where it was almost similar to family. Like I'll say one stage removed from family. Obviously, they're not your family, but they've seen you grow, so they're pretty much your aunties and uncles. So I've had that. I've had a lot of people pour into me and want me to do well. And you go into school where it almost feels as though you're not as important, you're not as crucial and critical to the overall ecosystem. It almost feels like you're just another pupil that just goes through the system, right? And I did have teachers who, in primary school, for example, who would really pour into me and try to see me do well. But it felt as though in a class of 20, you're just a thing in the class, right? I feel like that, but looking back, it definitely felt as though I had, as people say, main character syndrome. I don't think it was main character syndrome. I think that would be mischaracterizing myself. It was more so I was a person who liked the one-on-one attention and getting attention. So that leads actually really well into I was sharp as nails, more advanced than my whole class. Learning at their pace slowed me down. Sped through work, they would mess about. They should have given me extra help, but I was trouble. They kicked me out, right? And I remember I was the kid at school where they would say, "Oh, he's smart. He's so good. He's so smart. He knows what he's doing." But he gets distracted easily. That was me. That was me to a T. And the reason that was because I also had extra lessons on Saturdays where I would learn, and obviously at church you would read the Bible, so that probably helped with my English as well. But yeah, I had extra lessons on Saturday where I'll go through maths and science and stuff just to get better at that. So when I'm doing maths and science at school, when the teacher's asking, "Oh, what's the answer to this question?" and I'm just putting my hand up quickly, it was like, yeah, this is just easy. And then, after a while, the teacher's looking at you and they're thinking, I want someone else to answer. So then you kind of get discouraged a bit. And then you start answering less, start talking a bit more. And all of a sudden, you are a problem in the classroom rather than a solution. But my grades were never that bad to where I needed to be, it was easy to kick me out. You could tell I was a bright child. I was just bored, right? So almost adapting and slowing down so you can fit in within the schooling system, the education system for me was really, really difficult. And I felt as though it meant that I wasn't growing at maybe the rate I should have been. And obviously, I could take some accountability. Maybe I should have studied a bit more so I could be with the smarter kids. And then when I want to learn faster, I can learn faster because everyone else is as fast as me in terms of the way I think. But I didn't. And then I was in the situation I was in. So fast forward a bit. Actually, I want to speak about maths. I want to speak about maths. So I remember in school, I was always good at maths, but I wasn't, I didn't feel as confident in English. And the reason for that is because my grades in maths were just better than my grades in English. I just understood how to problem solve better than I did in terms of interpreting, looking through different perspectives, looking through like literary techniques and whatnot. And that's kind of the reason I do all of this, to be fair, so that I can practice that skill. Guys, what do you think about my drawing and stuff? Today I've been doing less drawing, I'm also writing, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. But yeah, I was told in school that, you're good at maths. Was shown more encouragement to pursue maths than I was in English, right? I find that weird why did I think that? Why did I pursue maths more than I do English? And I remember going through life thinking, okay, I'm just gonna focus on maths if I want to feel good about myself, and English I just need to pass it because it's obviously compulsory. But then I meet Mr. Sani, right? And the reason I've written from time is because when Mr. Sani came into my school, he came in year 10. So in year 9, we had a teacher called Miss Reed. She wasn't the best for us in terms of students. Looking back, we did give her a hard time, but I wouldn't say we understood each other from in the first place. It was one of those situations where she's from a different demographic to us, so she couldn't relate to us as much as we needed her to. So when she's teaching us, we'll just be clashing and being mischievous and being bad, but it wasn't because we're just these demons who want to disrupt our lesson. It was more so because we're young boys, like we're young boys who maybe needed a bit of discipline, needed a bit of structure around us, right? And she was providing that to some extent, but maybe for some reason we just didn't respect her or whatever. We could probably, I would probably get someone from our school to maybe delve deeper, or maybe I could do that another time. But yeah. So in year 10, Mr. Sani comes. He's a black man. He's from where I'm from. Well, he's from East London, but similar background. And he's about 30, right? At the time, so he's about 15 years older than us. So he's a kind of semi-young guy, but he comes in and he's about his respect. He makes sure to be very clear about what he expects from us. He doesn't take no talking. He will give you a detention, send you out if he has to. But I also felt as though he wanted the best for us at the same time. So as harsh as he may have been at times, it very much felt that for my group of friends in that class, he wanted the best for us. And it felt as though for me especially, no, I'm not just this guy who's good at maths. You can generally do well in English. And I remember getting a B in the end of year assessment for year 10 with Mr. Sani. And I was like, wow, like, maybe I could actually do well in English. Then we had another teacher who, like this quote, didn't share none of my features. So I went back to kind of wasting time in class, not really paying attention because I was just disinterested. It didn't feel like my language was being spoken, even though we're speaking English, which is funny. But the reason I've written From Time is because he would play the song From Time by Drake and Janae Aiko in class as we were working. He wouldn't play the swearing version or anything. He just played the instrumental sometimes, or maybe the cursing free version. I remember listening to it, and that's one of my favorite Drake songs ever, by the way. And I think that's generally 10 out of 10, perfect song. But it used to calm us down. It was hip hop, and it was just a way for us to just do our work. Because he used to give us a task. I'll give you 10 minutes to write this. We'll do that, and it used to be such a calming period. And stuff like I do now actually, while I'm at work, I'll just put on a playlist, jazz playlist, and just do my work. But it was those little things that he understood about us. And it felt as though even though some of us misbehaved, he would still understand who we are as people, right? And I really appreciated that because it felt as though in my secondary school, I'm not gonna say the name, but if you know, you know. In my secondary school, it didn't feel like we were understood. I remember we had a deputy head who was a black lady, and she was really hard on us about hair, right? And our hair is a really touchy subject within black people, within the black community, because something we put a lot of pride in, time in to make it look nice, and it feels as though everyone's kind of trying to take that confidence and that pride from us. I remember, and the best lyric I can say for that is, "My hair in plaits, long as any girl got to school, they said I should take it out. That's how black boys lose their smile." I remember this lady, this deputy head that I'm speaking about, she pretty much had that sentiment, but it was to do with high tops, right? And at the time, high tops were fashionable, they were cool, and she was like, no, no high tops, and you can't have lines in your hair. So the bit of flair and the bit of charisma we wanted to show, we couldn't because of a previous generation's gang culture and how it had impacted that school. And it had me thinking, it was like, these are a bunch of kids. At the time, none of us were in gangs or affiliated with that life into a you can't go back type of place, right? Some people ended up doing that, but it wasn't at that period. It wasn't that like that. So to tell us we can't have a certain hairstyle, and she didn't really. There wasn't really a reason. It was more so because of something someone else did. Already, it made us feel as though we're just guilty already. It felt as though with a lot of bad things that happened, it was probably those boys, the usual suspects, right? And yeah, it really hurt. It really did hurt. It really did hurt at that time because it was like you come to school with this innocence, and it doesn't feel as though you're an agent in losing this innocence. It feels as though this innocence is being taken away from you, where you're you're being told you're a problem before you actually become a problem, and then it feels as though when you have to make a big decision, it's easier to become a problem because that's all people expect from you. But it doesn't feel as though we were given the opportunity to, you know, be good people or grow up into being good and productive men. But I wanted to bring up Mr. Sani as well because for me, having him as a teacher really encouraged me and pushed me to keep going and keep studying, right? But I looked at stat of the week, I guess, and only 3% of teachers in the UK are black men, right? And this is a stat from 2021 to 2022. So it might be old, it might be a bit above, a bit down, below. But I read that stat and I was thinking maybe a lot more kids need someone who looks like them or is at least from where they're from to understand what they've been through and understand maybe why they're making certain mistakes. Because there was this one content creator, John Wick, right? Not the action star, the content creator, as I've said. And I liked his content a lot because he would do this thing where he'll have kids in detention and he'll just put on TikTok him just telling them straight that you're not bad, you're not this, you're not that. Why are you here? I don't want to be seeing you here. And he used to just like speak to them like humans, like, I want the best for you. Here's this, this, and this, right? And I remember watching that content and I was like, that's sometimes all kids need to hear. Sometimes kids need to be told they're not a problem rather than being told already that as soon as you enter this classroom, you're the problem. You're a part of you're just this monster. And obviously there's this term called adultification. I'm not going to speak about it too much today. But I feel like a lot of black children when they go into schools, they're just treated like adults. They're treated that they know completely what they're doing, they understand what they're doing, and every mistake they made, they were super conscious of it. Yes, kids do make bad decisions. They can be cruel, can be mean, but sometimes kids don't even understand who they are. So how can you treat them like they're this monster already? Which I found really interesting. But how does this all relate to Bashy, right? How does this all relate to Bashy? It just made me think about school. It just made me think about how these little moments from the teachers telling me you can't have certain hairstyles to being put in isolation in classrooms for being a bit too distracting or whatever. They didn't actually solve any of the because in primary school I was put in certain like isolations and stuff because I was distracting others or putting time out, whatever. But I wouldn't say it changed in secondary school. So it didn't actually solve the problem. The problem was, why am I here? What am I doing this for? For me, sometimes I was zone out in subjects that I feel like in RE, PSHE, all these subjects that maybe as I'm an older adult now would have been beneficial for me to know certain things. At the time, I didn't care because is knowing PSHE going to get me a job? They made it clear maths, English, science, if you get good grades in those, you probably get a good job and then maybe a couple others. But those subjects, I was just doing it so I could have a bunch of GCSEs. It wasn't because I enjoyed it or because I thought it was useful. And the thing is, right, especially when you're the first generation in this country, or the first generation to do like from primary school to university in this country, as I was, it felt as though not a lot of people fully understood the whole situation. It felt as though my parents understood how school was. They might not have understood the little intricacies in terms of the racism. Not, it was racism in a sense, but it was the small type of racism that you might not understand or might not know, but as like an adult now, I can look back and be, yeah, that was a bit racist. Never had one teacher, Mr. Bartley, and obviously I was really confident in maths. That's why I put it here. And he was okay. I'll paint the story properly. In year 10, I was put in second set maths, right? And I went to a really smart school, so being in second set maths is the set where all the A star and A kids didn't go, but no, all the A star kids aren't, but like all the A students, like the top performing students are, right? So I'm in that class, and I had a bit of imposter syndrome because this is year 9, and I didn't feel as though I knew I was good at maths, but I didn't know if I could ever be the best at maths. If I could be the one where everyone's like, oh, look, Jude's the best in maths. So I had this teacher, Mr. Barkley, and he didn't like me. Obviously, as I said before, I still had that problem of being distracted in class. So obviously, I'll be laughing at the back of the classroom with my friends. I was a very cheeky, very witty kid, so I'll just be saying funny things and whatnot. And we'll be arguing back and forth. But I remember he just used to speak to me in a way where he just spoke down to me and made me feel as though I didn't belong there. And I remember one time my friends had to jump in and be like, no, no, that was a bit messed up. And it just made me think, right? Those little moments, those little interactions where someone might give you imposter syndrome, those little moments where you, the thing that made you special is now slowly becoming something that's a distraction now and not appreciated in this space. All those little moments now have slowly made me lose like my smile, my eagerness, like my smile, my eagerness, my wanting to be inquisitive, wanting to learn more. And when you're in like everyone knows if you're in school, you're there to learn. So if you lose that, then what's gonna happen? So what's the moral of this video? How does this all relate to Bashy? I would say number one, we need more we need this figure to be up a bit, right? Especially in urban areas or areas where there's inner cities where there's a lot of black kids. We need more people to speak life into these black children. Because with the year 10 story where I was moved into maths, I had the head of maths at the time, Mr. Silver, a black man, he saw my grades in maths, thought, no, this guy is definitely smart. He should be upper level, right? So that belief in me made me want to go hard because Mr. Silver believes in me. He's put me in this position. I'm gonna prove him right in terms of his judgment. So we need more people in certain positions. And I had a teacher called Miss Brown as well. She didn't teach me, but she was the head of English at the time, and she also believed in me when Miss Reed and stuff didn't. And we need more teachers in positions, whether it be black faces, to just see that these kids are maybe doing something wrong at the time, but their innocence, who they were when they were younger, like in adolescence, where he wasn't born to be this demon who murdered someone. There was definitely a turning point. We need someone who's there at the start to stop it so that they don't lose their smile pretty much. But today was another heavy episode. Guys, hay fever is whooping me, so my energy is a bit low today. But the next couple of weeks, we're going to speak about Nipsey Hussle. We're going to be speaking about Drake. I've got a big Drake video that I'm planning. It's going to be really good, really entertaining. We're going to be speaking about Playboy Carti and his new album and whether you're being old by not liking it or it's just bad music. But yeah, got a lot of content coming, planned it all out. So make sure to like, comment, and share and subscribe, man. I want to get to 100 subscribers by, we are in March right now. Let's get to 100 subscribers by June. It's not that much. We're at 15 currently. So keep subscribing, keep liking, and yeah, share with all your friends. But it's been your boy J to the Izzo, and I'm out. And that's how black boys lose their smile.